This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Ben Sears at Ben Sears on Letterboxd.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello, and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And you can also support us on Patreon at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. At the minimum rate of $1 per month, you get access to an exclusive RSS feed with content recorded specifically for Patreon supporters. And if you pledge $5 or more, you get access to commentary tracks that I record whenever I get the chance to. I just recorded a commentary track for Pet Sematary, the 2019 remake, and a couple weeks ago I recorded a commentary track for Superbad. So that's at the $5 level on patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, and at the $10 level you get all of that, plus access to unreleased and early access to upcoming released episodes of all three podcasts at Obsessive Viewer, Anthology, and Tower Junkies. So, again, that's patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And yeah, so I'm your aforementioned host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is recurring co-host and contributing reviewer for ObsessiveViewer.com, Ben Sears. How's it going, Ben?
Hey, good. How's it going?
Pretty good. You might say, given your situation with buying an appliance, we're all pretty chill. No, that doesn't really work that much.
Subscribe to Patreon and you'll understand that.
Yes, exactly. So Ben, we didn't really touch on this that much in the Patreon thing, but how's 2021 been for you in terms of movie watching and stuff? And do you set out goals for yourself with movies in the new year?
I had not in the past. I didn't last year. No. And I didn't really think of it too much this year until I got an idea, I think on, I don't know, it must have been the first or the second or something. I was trying to figure out some kind of way, because I know last year you did something fun. And I kind of wanted to try and bookend it somehow, but I didn't really know how, so I came up with some kind of way. And I'll get into this a little bit more later. Okay. Maybe. Nice. So I bought the Criterion box set of the Agnes Varda collection.
That's right.
So my first movie of this year was the first movie that she ever directed.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully I'll finish it before the end of the year, but hopefully my last movie of the year will be the last one that she ever directed.
Oh man, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of did something similar with my first movie this year and hopefully my last movie this year. So what cause, well, you guys will have heard this on the year in review episode, so I will save that for what my first and last of last year was. But my first movie of this year was Superbad, which I mentioned I recorded a commentary track for it for Patreon, but it's also my number 25 favorite movie of all time. Okay. On my top 25 all-time favorite movies list. And so my goal is to watch all 25 of those on that list and record commentary tracks for each one and put them on Patreon at the $5 level and everything. So theoretically, I would want my first movie to be Superbad and my last movie of 2021 to be my all-time favorite movie, which is Seven Samurai.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
fun.
yeah, and that'll be a super fun 3.5-hour commentary track that I'll record. Me, fucking, at that point, 35-year-old white guy in Indianapolis talking about a Japanese period movie.
On New Year's Eve.
On New Year's Eve.
Whenever it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I don't know if you had anything else to get to.
No,
right
I am
off the bat.
all set. But you you brought something.
Yes.
And I'm nervous.
I have something for you.
Oh, nice.
Fortunately, this we didn't record anything around Christmas because it didn't arrive before then.
Okay.
What was I going to say?
Also, I was dying of COVID.
Yeah. Probably best to hold off on that. So you got me the one of the Roger Ebert books.
Yes.
A while ago, and I appreciate it. So
okay.
Thank you. This doesn't really have anything to do with that.
Oh, okay.
I'll just hand it to you and you can describe it.
Okay.
It's nothing special. It's just something from the Capitol. Just a little souvenir.
Okay. Just something from the Capitol.
I tried to get something from Pelosi's office, but you know,
nice.
Everyone was already there, so I had to settle for someone else's.
Oh, this is awesome. It's the script for Ex Machina.
Yes.
Like, I've seen these advertised. Like, A24 has, like, the books of, like, all their... thanks, dude. This is so nice.
Sure.
Oh, that's awesome. And Ex Machina just happens to be my number... 18... 19... 20? No, I don't know. Stalling. This is so nice. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Where is my list? Okay, all-time favorite movies. Ex Machina is my number 22.
Okay.
So nice. Maybe for the commentary track I do for that, I'll just read the script.
Yeah, I had also seen those advertised, and I thought that I had remembered that it was. I know that you liked it a lot. I didn't get it because it was on your list, though.
Nice.
But I mean, the only other ones that they have are The Witch, Moonlight, and I think there might be one more. But I don't remember what.
I want to say Midsummer. I think. Maybe.
I don't know. But I'm sure that you like those other ones, but I don't know how much more you like them compared to that. So I figured that would be the best.
Definitely.
Best bet.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because we talked about devs on the podcast last year. And so this is nice. This is so nice.
Hereditary.
Oh, Hereditary.
Yeah. So A24, if you're listening, if you come out with one for, I don't know, The Last Black Man in San Francisco or The Lighthouse even, I'll for sure be on board for that. So
nice.
Enjoy.
Well, thanks so much. This is so nice.
I kind of leafed through it a little bit, and it looks pretty cool. They've got some still photos, and I think there's
like
commentary or essays.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to see who wrote some of these essays here.
There might be a table of contents.
There might be. I was just thinking that as I was like leafing through. Okay, a bunch of people that I don't recognize the names. Section 1, screenplay by Alex Garland, whoever that is, am I right? Section 2, 24 frames, not sure. I guess that's just art. Section 3, This Is Not a Love Story by Jack Halberstam. Section 4, concept art by Jock. And What is Consciousness by Murray Shanahan. So this is awesome. I'm definitely going to dig into this. I'm super excited. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I didn't get you anything, except the comfort of hoping that you do not catch COVID being in my apartment. It's fine.
That's a priceless gift.
Yes. Please don't catch COVID because that would feel fucking terrible. Yeah. So anyway, thank you. That's so nice.
Sure.
Yeah. God, I love that movie. It was just announced. I think he's going to be doing maybe another TV show. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. This is awesome. So, it's a feature film. His next project, Alex Garland has set his next project, Men, with A24, and has tapped Jesse Buckley and Rory Kinnear to star.
Okay.
Jesse Buckley, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah. So I'm super excited.
Okay.
So I know nothing about it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. Sweet. So today on the podcast, Ben, we are continuing our series on the Roger Ebert's Great Movies list. This is now our 6th episode or 7th?
Yeah, I think so.
Let me check. I think it's 6th, if my notes are correct. It is, yes, part 6. And today on the show, we're going to be discussing Akira Kurosawa's 1961 Yojimbo and Jean-Pierre Melville's 1967 La Samourai. So do we have anything else to go over before we get into this episode?
I don't think so. It's been kind of quiet.
Nice. Yeah.
News-wise, I guess.
Yeah. You haven't watched that Locked Down movie, have you?
No, I plan on it.
Okay.
It sounds interesting, even though from the reviews I've seen, it's been kind of mediocre to good-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll watch it at some point.
Yeah, we'll report back at some point on that. So,
have you? Did you watch Wonder Woman 1984?
I didn't, and I just remembered that it's only on HBO Max for like another 7 days or something.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to. I just had no motivation to watch it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Pedro Pascal is fun as hell.
Nice.
Chris Pine is dreamy, but beyond that, it's okay.
Did you, we can briefly talk about this and then go into the episode, but, I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast yet. The HBO Max theater, HBO Max release, the Warner Brothers or whatever it was. How did you feel about that?
We talked about it.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I think if I remember right, the last episode that we recorded, the news was announced like that day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
and one thing I listened to another podcast, so this is not my original thought, unfortunately, but I hadn't realized this. So Warner Brothers is owned by AT&T, which is, a streaming cell phone company.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not really their main motivation in this, but you can see a primary motivation was to get you to, be on your phone more and use more.
Wow.
And use more of your shit. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little cynical way of looking at it, but it's just.
Well, after all, the 5G towers did cause COVID, so there's that.
Yeah, so they are pure evil.
Yes. Wow, that's really I never thought of that angle. That's interesting. In other news, CBS All Access is officially going to be rebranded as Paramount Plus on March 4th. And I guess I haven't read up too much on it, but basically instead of CBS All Access, it's going to be Paramount Plus, which is going to have all of CBS All Access plus, I guess, Paramount's like library of films and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know. It should be interesting. It's kind of like an HBO Max kind of thing. I have a vested interest in it because I really want them to announce whether or not Twilight Zone is getting a 3rd season. Because I'm kind of dying out here. So we'll see. So, do you have any thoughts on that, or shall we move on?
Not really. I'm not subscribed.
Okay. So you're not watching The Stand?
No, not yet. I don't know if you have seen this news yet, but today the third season of Master of None was announced.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I did not see that news. I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
What are there any details?
Not really. I'm browsing through here. Master of None is set to finally return for a third season, this time set in London.
Huh.
Adds some actress that I can't remember from Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Naomi Aki? I don't know.
Sure.
Ansari and co-creator Alan Yang started quietly shooting season 3 last spring, but production was put on hold. So who knows when it'll come out. This article that I'm reading doesn't say any kind of potential date, but yeah, I'm excited.
Me too. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to that because I love the first 2 seasons. I think that they're fantastic.
I need to rewatch those.
Me too. Did you ever watch Love Life on HBO Max?
No.
Okay, it's kind of I wouldn't say it's a similar concept. It's basically it was renewed for a season 2, but it's an anthology format. So the first season is Anna Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically every episode is her in a relationship and time lapse and everything. It's really good. I need to finish that season actually.
Okay.
But season 2 is going to have the main character be played by the guy from Chidi from The Good Place.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
William Jackson Harper.
Yes.
Which I'm excited for that.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll report back whenever that stuff happens. So shall we move on to the Ebert's Great Movies list?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So here is the bumper that we play for the Ebert's Great Movies
No
list.
name is more synonymous with film criticism than Roger Ebert's.
Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and children.
People say, do film critics have too much power?
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair.
We can help a movie. We can help a movie by sharing our enthusiasm. We can't necessarily hurt a movie that is destined to be a big hit anyway.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
And then Roger Ebert gets up.
What I find very offensive and condescending about your statement is nobody would say to a bunch of white filmmakers, how could you do this to your people?
Let us all unite!
And just to read the quote from Roger Ebert himself, attributed to the Ebert's Great Movies list kind of idea is, quote, one of the gifts a movie lover can give another is the title of a wonderful film they have not yet discovered. Here are more than 300 reconsiderations and appreciations of movies from the distant past to the recent past. All of movies that I consider worthy of being called great. All right, so here we are with part 6 of our Ebert's Great Movies list review series on the Obsessive Viewer. And the way that we do this is that we obviously pick 2 movies. One of us picks we each pick one movie, and then we discuss both of them in the episode. So we do them chronologically from release date. So the first one we're going to talk about tonight is Yojimbo from 1961, directed by the incomparable Akira Kurosawa. And, I'll do the plot summary for Yojimbo. So the plot summary for Yojimbo is a crafty Ronin comes to a town divided by 2 criminal gangs and decides to play them against each other to free the town. Yojimbo stars Toshiro Mifune and, several other actors, including Tetsuya Nakadai, I'm butchering. I'm gonna butcher all these. I'm sorry, but and also Takashi Shimura makes an appearance as well. I like him a lot. So anyway, came out in 1961. Highly influential. Also, it's an interesting movie because it is clearly it's Akira Kurosawa, who his favorite filmmaker was John Ford. It's Kurosawa really digging into the Western genre in a way that I don't think he really did until that point. Mm-hmm. And it's him doing that while also basically spawning and influencing the spaghetti Western and the Man with No Name trilogy. Which I believe there was a lawsuit because they didn't, when they made A Fistful of Dollars, which is a blatant remake of Yojimbo. Like there's no way it's not. I guess they didn't get permission and there was a lawsuit involved. So I don't know the specifics, but yeah. So anyway, I picked this movie for Ben and I to watch. I picked it because Kurosawa is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and Yojimbo is a fantastic kind of action samurai film. So Ben, how did you feel about Yojimbo? How did you feel going into it? And unless I'm mistaken, is this your first Kurosawa?
You are not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah. First and only, yes, so far as of this recording. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I didn't really know what to expect other than samurais and badass shit.
Nice.
And I was not let down. So, cool. I was really taken aback by it. Did not know the Western influences or the Western kind of style. So that was a really surprising, really welcome turn of events, I guess. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Sweet. So it's funny. It's not my favorite Kurosawa movie.
Okay.
It's a lot of people's favorite Kurosawa movie, but it is, I mean, and it's up there for me. Like I have just such a special, by the way, we'll do non-spoiler and spoiler review, but I have a very kind of, I don't know, a precious connection with Kurosawa movies because those are the movies that I watched when I was trying really hard to cultivate my own taste in film and like it was my introduction to like the Criterion Collection and
sure
the robust special features. Like I remember going when I was in high school to, I want to say it was Suncoast Video and like seeking out the Criterion Collection edition of any Kurosawa movie I could find. And I remember, I don't know if I bought this there, but I ended up buying Throne of Blood, which is his 1957 Macbeth in feudal Japan story, which is my number 23 on my top 25, I think. So I bought that, and I remember like taking the insert to school so I could read the essays while I was not paying attention to school. But anyway, Yojimbo is... It's funny because I hold in such high regard, and at some point I'll pick it for this project, but it'll be down the road, I think. I hold in to such a high degree Seven Samurai, and one of the central figures of that movie, it's obviously an ensemble being Seven Samurai, but the kind of Toshiro Mifune does a fantastic job playing this reluctant hero, but also this kind of goofy, like wild card character for the group. And to know that performance and then see his performance in Yojimbo as this calm, quiet, calculating samurai that's playing these two factions off of each other.
Yeah.
It's just, it's night and day, but it's also just, it shows just how much range he had as an actor. So I really like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what struck you most about this movie, and like what did you connect with, and what didn't work for you, if anything?
Right off the bat, the thing that stood out to me the most was the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I loved the soundtrack. I think it rules. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting the music to sound like that. Really, it's kind of this. I don't know. How would you describe it? Like, not really jazz, not really funk-ish, just almost out of place, but it still kind of fits. I don't know.
It is.
It's not really what you think of when you think of Western music, I guess. But it just really stood out to me just right off the bat. I thought it ruled. And I was excited every time it came back.
A lot of like drums and
saxophone too, I think.
Something like
maybe,
yeah. Probably.
Maybe. I don't know. I might be wrong. I really liked the way that Mifune just kind of the way like he's fucking with these people and he's doing it in just these really increasingly clever ways. And that was I was really tickled by that.
Yeah.
This is 100% my fault, but I watched this kind of late at night, and I didn't really doze off, but my wife had to kind of shake me awake or make sure my eyes were open once or twice.
Right.
So I kind of missed some of the smaller like character details or just the way that the characters are related to each other or whatever. I don't think that I really missed out on a whole lot, but I would like to watch it again just to, have open eyes and let's
see how to phrase this. There are no like big reveals or anything, so you're good there.
Right. It would have been a little bit nicer to have a better idea of like who is who and how they relate to each other, and
it can get kind of confusing, especially with those two factions and
that it's in black and white, and it's harder to distinguish them that way, but that's my ugly American side showing.
Right. But I think what works best with this movie is that, and it's something that I think Ebert touched on in his essay, is that they're not, it defies antagonism, or it defies protagonist and antagonist. Sanjuro, the Ronin, is this guy that's just wandering into a town, and like you said, it's fucking with these two factions that are kind of they are in control of the town, and their feud is what's kind of like keeping the citizens and everything, scared and sheltered and everything. But it's not like he's doing this out of a noble cause. It's not like he's like, well, I need to save this town or whatever. He's like, I need money, and I need to, I'll kill some people, and I'll make sure the coffin maker gets some good business, and I just want some money.
I think Ebert says this, that there's no good side and no bad side.
Yeah,
it's just a town full of evil people.
Yep. So that makes it a little bit easier to swallow and everything. There is an element to the movie which I really appreciate. This is kind of an interesting, I don't know if I'd say parallel, but it's an interesting running, maybe not even running thing with Kurosawa, because I think I've seen like half of his movies total. But
oh, really?
Yeah. He made 30 movies, and I really wanted to do like a review series of each one, but I don't know if I have the knowledge, because what I'll do is I'll watch a Kurosawa movie and I'll go on like Criterion Channel, or on the DVDs or Blu-rays I have, and I'll listen to the commentary track and everything, and it's like they're talking about Japanese culture and stuff, and I'm like,
right.
Swords and kimonos.
Ebert writes in his essay that there's an author, his name's Donald Ritchie, who says that his writings on Kurosawa are pretty much canon.
Yeah.
And he wrote the book that I am reading about Ozu.
Oh, really?
So,
nice.
Yeah. Maybe once I'm done with this, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to check that out too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But the thing I was getting at was that Tetsuyo Nakadai, he plays Unosuke, the guy with the pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, like he and Mifune acted together in a lot of things. He also appears in the pseudo-sequel to Yojimbo Sanjuro as a different character.
Right.
But I don't know. This is not an interesting point to make. He plays the lead character in The Sword of Doom, where in The Sword of Doom, he's this character that's like, he's like corrupted by power. Like he's an incredible sword fighter, and he's just like, he's evil and everything. But it's an interesting movie because it's like, it was originally envisioned as a trilogy, but they only made the first one, and the ending is kind of just bonkers, crazy, and doesn't really compute that, or doesn't really connect that well. But anyway, Toshiro Mifune makes an appearance in that movie as well, and it's just interesting that they had worked together here and there as well. So
okay,
I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, but the thing that I kind of really appreciate about that character in that arc is that he has the pistol, which it seems to be kind of an interesting running thing, maybe not running thing, but like in Seven Samurai, the bandits have a gun, or have like 3 guns, and like it's shown as like, okay, it's used to show like the changing of the guard, essentially. Okay. Like samurai life, like I don't know much about the history or anything, so I apologize if I'm going to butcher this, but at this time in the Edo period, I think that's what it's called, like feudal Japan, like there were civil wars that broke out, and the samurai, after the civil wars were done and everything, the samurai kind of became guns for hire, swords for hire. Yeah. And it's just interesting to see a recursion of, like in both Seven Samurai and Yojimbo, of the presence of a gun in terms of like it being just in the waning days of the kind of samurai era of Japan. So that's my 34-year-old white guy in Indianapolis take on the recursion of pistols and guns in Kurosawa's period films.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does. It is kind of an interesting like backdrop. It's this new guy with this new technology coming in, and not necessarily like taking away the old way of life, but you know, exerting his dominance over these other people just because he has this little pistol.
Yeah. Thinking he's hot shit, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something I really appreciate about it. And I have an anecdote about the ending, so I'll save that for spoilers. But but every time I rewatch this movie, I just think I'm taken by the cleverness of it. Sanjuro, just the way that he works these two factions together. It's just a very cleverly told story. Yeah. And like you said, the kind of the change ups and the way that he does these things like in different ways is just really, really cool. Like when he saves, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but when he goes into the place with the 6 guards, like that scene is just so cool. It's really cool. So,
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And he does it in a way that I feel like a lesser filmmaker would make him feel like an asshole, you know, just deliberately messing with this town that he just kind of wanders into on a whim. And
Yeah.
I mean, yes, all the other people are assholes themselves, but this guy just comes in and just starts messing around with them just for no reason. But yeah, he is a character that you want to root for, and that you want to see him not necessarily help out the town, but just find a way to survive, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really fun to watch it play out. Like, this isn't, so of the two movies, of Yojimbo and Sanjuro, the sequel that came out like a year later, Sanjuro is more a comedy where he takes young samurai under his wing to an extent.
Okay.
And it's a very different tone, but you see some of that in some of his interactions here. It's like, there's some comedic elements in this, but it's mostly just him being conniving and playing these two sides against each other, which again, I think is just really clever and really satisfying to me.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about the filmmaking and everything? Did anything catch your eye about Kurosawa's style, since this is your first time watching a movie of his?
It was, what's the best word? I don't want to say unremarkable, but it wasn't like flashy or showy, you know, it looked great. It just, there wasn't, I don't know. He wasn't just trying to be showy or dramatic or trying to, there weren't any shots that didn't make sense. So I appreciated that, and just the way that it was structured. Just very efficient and very it progressed nicely.
The pacing?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. It's interesting because there are a lot of like trademarks of Kurosawa's that are evident in the movie. So a famous anecdote of this is that, like I said, he was a huge fan of John Ford.
Right.
And I guess there was an anecdote where, so like a recurring kind of visual motif in his movies is that rain plays a big part in a lot of his films. And usually it signals like impending action or drama to unfold. And it's like buckets of rain. It's very aggressive. And so it's something that's in most of his movies. And it's funny because I guess the story goes that when he met John Ford, again, like his hero, John Ford said like, wow, I think it was John Ford. He said, wow, you really like rain in your movies, don't you? And then he's like, you watch my movies.
Nice.
So yeah, but there's that. And then also, screen wipes, to change scenes, which I think was the direct influence on George Lucas with Star Wars. And just the way that and this is something that has struck me so much since I've watched his movies more often in the last couple of years, but just the way that he composes his shots. So like there are scenes where Sanjuro is in the kind of town in the street, and members of the faction that he is like at that time interacting with, they come out to kind of try to threaten him, I think, or I can't remember the context of this particular scene that I'm thinking of, but it's just this really, really amazing way that Kurosawa had such an eye for filling a frame. And this is very evident in Seven Samurai and here, which this is really special because this is a widescreen thing. So like he has more room, but Seven Samurai was like whatever, 4:3, I think. But it's just really cool. This scene that I'm thinking of is like these people, these members of this clan that are like, this faction that he's going up against or he's interacting with, they're running out of the building, but it's like they're running in single file lines.
Yeah.
And it's just so vibrant, and the visual aspect of it is just really cool because they just line up behind each other in rows, and it's just so many people, and so like in this somewhat tight frame. It's really cool. I really admire just the way that he composes his shots, because it's amazing.
This is a stupid thing that it reminded me of, but it reminded me, that moment that you're talking about reminded me of West Side Story. Like, I was really disappointed that they didn't all just start snapping and jumping around and dancing.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's great. I love it.
I am, by the way, also very disappointed that nobody at any point yells out, "Yo, Jimbo!" That was a missed opportunity.
I am not gonna lie. If I have had this thought that if I ever like write a script or anything, I would like put something like that into the script as an homage. But yeah. So anyway, copyright Obsessive Viewer. But yeah. So should we go into kind of spoilers? We can go in kind of a brief spoiler, because I don't know how much more I have to talk about it. But any parting non-spoiler thoughts before we go into spoilers for Yojimbo?
So how soon after this should I watch Sanjuro?
I would say immediately. Like, it's not as good.
Okay.
But I think that if you like the tone, even though it's slightly a different tone, but it's kind of the same. The thing about Yojimbo compared to most of Kurosawa's other like feudal Japan era movies is that Yojimbo is, for lack of a better word, it's more fun.
Okay.
Like like Seven Samurai is a blast. Like I love it dearly, but you have like that's a sprawling epic of more than 3.5 hours long. And it's an ensemble. It has all these different moving pieces. So, like, there's humor and there's fun to be had in it, but it's also in service of this greater narrative it's literally, like, it's an epic.
Right.
And when you think about, like, Throne of Blood, that's some heavy-duty Shakespeare in feudal Japan clothing. So, that's insane with, like, Kagemusha and Ran. So, I would say check out Sanjuro. Or actually, maybe check out some of his other feudal Japan movies, and then use Sanjuro as kind of a palate cleanser.
Okay.
But I recommend all 30 of his movies.
Okay.
Because I love him.
Well, that reminds me, because I mean, there will be plenty more Kurosawa movies on this list.
Yes.
I know, obviously, Seven Samurai, Rashomon. I think Ron is on this.
I think so. Either that or Kagemusha.
Right.
Or both.
I'm not seeing Kagemusha. Akira, did he direct Akira?
Yes, he did. And Ron is on the list.
Okay.
There's Rashomon, Redbeard, Ron, Ikiru.
Redbeard, that's one of his?
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the last collaboration between Kurosawa and Mifune.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, if you liked Toshiro Mifune in this, I recommend the documentary Mifune, The Last Samurai.
Okay.
It's all about his career and everything. It's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you intend on following up and watching more Kurosawa?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Nice.
After Sanjuro, I don't know what I will watch after that. I've been wanting to watch Rashomon for a while. So maybe that, but I don't know.
Nice. I like Rashomon a lot.
Okay.
That would be... I'll just throw this out there. Maybe not for the next time, but maybe for the time after that. I think it would be a fun pairing to do Rashomon and 12 Angry Men.
Okay.
Just saying. I think that would be kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So, shall we go into probably a brief spoiler of Yojimbo?
Sure.
All right.
I guess.
Yes.
Oh no! I was gonna say spoiler is kind of being a little generous.
Yeah.
I guess it's now a 50-year-old movie this year.
That is true. That is true. And really, the only anecdote I have about it is just about the gun.
Okay.
And I don't know. But before we get into a spoiler discussion, Ben, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Nice. And would you put it on a list of your great movies?
Yeah.
Nice. I think obviously my answer is pretty obvious. Yes to both, thumbs up, and on my list. So yeah,
I did. I don't know if this bears mentioning at all, but I did just kind of briefly search for the Fistful of Dollars that this I guess inspired, and
right.
Ebert decided to put this one on there as opposed to Fistful of Dollars. So.
Yeah. I was kind of bummed because I wanted to watch Fistful of Dollars. Like, I wanted to pitch that for the next one.
Right.
But, I was surprised it wasn't on it. Like, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is, but
okay.
Not a Fistful of Dollars. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I don't know if I can say which one is better or, any of that. Anyway.
Nice. Yeah, so we'll go into a brief spoiler for Yojimbo, and then we'll move on to La Samurai. So check the show notes if you want timestamps, but we're going to go into spoilers for Yojimbo. Okay, spoilers on for Yojimbo. I do have just an anecdote from Ebert's essay, if you don't mind indulging me for a moment. By the way, do you have a hard out?
No.
Okay.
I do need to stop and check the lottery results at 11 o'clock to make sure that I won my $800 million.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm...
Nice.
We can just have that on in the background if necessary.
Nice. I like it. Okay, so Yojimbo spoilers, and I do have just an excerpt from Ebert's essay that I want to share, and then we can kind of talk about that a little bit. It's about the gun and about Unosuke and his interaction with Sanjuro at the end of the movie. So Ebert says, quote, "Without revealing precisely what happens between them, let me ask you to consider the moment when Unosuke aims his pistol at Sanjuro. It may be loaded, it may not be. Sanjuro cannot be absolutely sure. He is free to move away or to disarm Unosuke, but instead he sits perfectly motionless, prepared to accept whatever comes. This, it strikes me, is the act of a samurai aware that his time has passed and accepting with perfect equanimity whatever the new age has to offer." And it's interesting because I had a different read on that. Because I think he's, and it's interesting because when we talk about La Samurai, I'll call back to this, I think.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's kind of implying the concept of, and I'm gonna do like one of the two versions of it, because I feel like an idiot if I mispronounce the other one because of reasons, but, seppuku, or harakiri, which I've heard pronounced harikari, and I don't know if that's like accurate or whatever, but it's like the act of killing yourself. In disgrace or whatever. Which I don't think Ebert's necessarily implying that here, but it's something that's very samurai-y. So let me ask you, Ben, how did you feel about this kind of climactic scene between Sanjuro and Unosuke, and the way that Unosuke is so like dependent on the pistol and his attitude toward it? How did you feel about how all that shook out?
Yeah, I think it made sense for the characters. He only has the gun and nothing else, you know. He has no wits, or it kind of reminds me of I don't know, maybe The Wire, kind of like these young kids who
interesting,
get the guns and think that they're hot shit. I don't know. It's probably painting it with a broad brush, but you know,
Nice.
Yeah. I was satisfied with the way it played out.
Nice. Yeah, I liked it too. I like that the threat of the gun isn't necessarily like, it's not painted as like, oh, this could be the downfall of Sanjuro or anything. It's like, this is, like I said before in the non-spoiler, it's like, it's this artifact of a future time, or artifact of where technology and fighting is going, essentially, and protection. While, and this is, I don't want to make this comparison, or I don't want to make this statement, but whereas samurai with their swords, like it's a more civilized, it's a more elegant weapon from a more civilized age, because of Star Wars. And they say
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I don't care. So, but no, it's something that is just a different, it's confronting the future, the way that Ebert says it. And so I just wanted to bring it up. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else for spoilers. Any parting thoughts, or shall we go on to La Samourai?
No, I enjoy this. I look forward to more Kurosawa.
Nice.
And your guidance.
Yes. I was going to say I should, maybe I'll try to recommend a movie for you. Not as part of this, because I feel like my, what's the word I'm looking for? My, impulse is to just make, like, go through each
all Kurosawa all the time.
Yeah. But I want to space it out a little bit.
Okay. But
I will say that if you, I will say that if you have a hankering for more Kurosawa, watch Throne of Blood if you want a good period movie. But if you want one of his contemporary movies set like in post-war Japan, Stray Dog.
Okay.
Phenomenal. And I don't believe it's on the Ebert's Great Movies list, but I really, really highly recommend Stray Dog.
Okay. I know you gave me Throne of Blood on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe Stray Dog was one of them, though.
Stray Dog, unfortunately, was not, because they have not had a Blu-ray release for that. But my eye has been, I don't know, I've been keeping an eye out for any Kurosawa Blu-rays. Yeah, so that'll do it for our review of Yojimbo. Shall we move on to 1967's La Samourai?
Let's do it.
All right.
This movie goes through some pretty predictable paces about their forbidden love, but I was never really very interested in the characters in Blade Runner. I didn't find it convincing. Instead, what impressed me in this film were the special effects, the wonderful use of optical trickery to show me a gigantic, imaginary Los Angeles, which in the vision of this movie has been turned into sort of a futuristic Tokyo.
Great performance, and Fargo is the best movie the Coen brothers have ever made. A quirky,
so, Ben, would you mind, do you have like the information up? Do you want to read the plot summary and tell us about what made you want to pick this movie for us to watch?
Sure. Les Samurai, 1967, directed by Jean-Pierre Melville. After professional hitman Jeff Costello is seen by witnesses, his efforts to provide himself an alibi drive him further into a corner.
Yes.
So I basically just picked this because I was just browsing through the list on Letterboxd one day and saw the little like thumbnail poster image for it and was just really intrigued by it for some reason. It's not really like overly flashy or anything. It's just, it just kind of looked cool and I had never heard of it. So I looked it up and it was available to stream and I just kind of watched it just at random one day and thought that it was really cool. And I picked this just because I wanted to talk about it. And
Sweet.
I don't know anyone else personally that has seen it. So what better opportunity?
Nice. And I'm glad that you picked it. And if you remember last time, like just the word samurai made me all excited. So that's why I picked Yojimbo because I was like, oh, okay, something like Le Samurai has something to do with Samurai. So maybe we'll do a double feature with Samurai movies. So that's why I picked Yojimbo. But
Okay.
Yeah, do you mind if I give my kind of overall, my brief thoughts?
Go ahead.
Non-spoiler?
Yeah, go ahead.
I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I think of the two, I liked Yojimbo better, which is, I mean, kind of a given my proclivities and my tastes and everything, and my history with Yojimbo. But Le Samurai, I was really pretty taken with as a procedure, kind of, and a methodology type of movie. So it's something that I didn't really connect with until I kind of thought about it more after I watched it, while I was trying to fall asleep, but just could not fall asleep. But I had this like nagging feeling in the back of my head that it just reminded me something, like the tone of it, the style of it reminded me so much of something. And I kind of pinpointed it to like this. The entire movie kind of felt a little bit to me like it reminded me of the oh god, what's is it the wolf scene, Harvey Keitel's character in Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Like the way that and I'm sure Tarantino, like I read this as a highly influential film, obviously, but like I could see like the Tarantino's influence from Le Samurai, because he is so focused on procedure and on methodology and everything, and really showing like the pieces and everything. In Le Samurai, that's kind of all. Not all it is, but it's a good portion
Like
of what it is.
the middle third of it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like going through the motions of actually showing like the detectives, like asking individual witnesses and then excusing them into his office, like just that kind of, I don't want to say slow burn, but that kind of just very slow moving, I guess would be the word.
Very detailed.
Detail oriented thing. And what struck me about it was that it wasn't used as necessarily as suspense. Like when we get big jumps in the plot or big moments of, I don't want to give anything away, but like there's a moment where Jeff meets with someone, and we go through all of this preamble of him being tailed, him going through the subway and going through doing all of these things to get to this meeting. And then what happens at the meeting is, by all accounts, a dramatic shift in the movie, but it is so quick and so sudden. It's like, it is a complete 180 from like the procedure and everything. And something about that just was really striking to me, because it just felt like it really engrossed me with it. So I don't know, but
yeah. I think to go back to your point about Tarantino, I think he probably took from this, all the N-words that are in this movie.
Right.
That was probably a couple minutes late for that joke, but it was worth it. I also, the whole, like both times that I have watched this movie, I recognize all of the things that it does that I have seen in so many other movies since then. There's the secret garage that he goes to get the license plates swapped out. And this one, like, I'm sure there are better examples of this, but for whatever reason, I was just thinking of The Transporter, the Jason Statham movie.
Never saw it, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just really any kind of like hitman with a code kind of movie. This movie is kind of like the archetype of that. You've got, like I said, the garage, you've got I guess he doesn't even really have a code. He just has a way of doing things.
Right.
You have the detective that is willing to bend the rules to try and get him. And he's like hell bent on trying to pin this murder on him.
Yeah.
You have the sexy woman who's pulled into this who it's not really clear in this if they're like attracted to each other or whatever, but I'm glad that it didn't go into that, because it was you see that way too often.
Yeah, the kind of femme fatale, but it's understated to a large degree in this movie, and I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, or maybe not necessarily femme fatale, but just someone who like falls in love with the hitman kind of guy. Just,
are you talking about his girlfriend alibi lady, or the pianist? Okay,
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
I guess I'll amend that and say potential femme fatale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just all the other movies that have tried to do what this movie is doing, and would I have liked to have seen, you know, I feel like, yes, it is very slow paced, especially that middle third. I feel like in an ideal world, maybe the mob or whatever that hires him could have been developed a little bit better.
Sure.
But I'm still okay with it not, you know, as it is, not having been developed a whole lot. I think that it's just such a cool, just stylish little, not necessarily action movie, not even necessarily a thriller, but just like the prototype of all of these movies to come later.
Yeah, like both of like Hitman movies and even to a smaller extent, like just spy espionage movies and stuff.
Maybe like the Jason Bourne movies, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like this Jason Bourne is this on steroids.
Right.
But like, you know, there's the sequence where he tries to lose him in the subway. You know, how many times have you seen that over the years?
Right.
And yeah, I just thought it was really cool.
Nice. What made you watch it the first time? Was it just for this, or?
No, just for random.
Okay.
Gotcha. I just kind of pulled it out of nowhere.
Nice.
And I saw that it was available to stream, so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. I am. I realize I don't have a movie picked for next time.
Okay.
But I do want to mention there's something I want to talk about in spoilers. But I don't know if there's enough really to talk about in spoilers or anything, but there's something I want to talk about, basically. So, overall thoughts before we get into spoilers, and other kind of piecing together things that I can't really remember, but, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Like I said, I didn't like it as much as Yojimbo, but I did like the overall aesthetic and the kind of way that it builds its tension in a unique way. And I wouldn't even necessarily say tension per se, but the way it builds its escalation and builds its plot around this, I don't want to say unassuming, but he's this kind of suave guy who is just very cool, calm, collected, and you might construe that as being kind of a not lesser, but like a lower type of, like, not being very active performance-wise. But I feel like there's a lot of subtext to him in the kind of quiet calm that is obviously very influential in a bunch of movies that have come in the wake of this.
Yeah.
And to your point about reminding you of modern day movies and everything, when he has to dress his injury, I just got such a, like, it reminded me that I really need to watch the John Wick movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because I watched the first one and liked it, but yeah.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, he is kind of John Wick-esque.
Basically, Le John Wick.
Yeah, Le Jeff Wick.
Yes. Yeah, I really liked it. Have you seen any of Melville's other movies?
I have not. He does have one other movie on this list. It's called Bob the Gambler.
Oh.
And I tried watching it like last week, I think, but I think I was just too tired. I didn't give it my full attention. So
gotcha.
I do plan on watching it. He's got a couple movies on Canopy.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I don't think he has any other that are streaming elsewhere. So, he just based on this though, I'm excited to watch more of his stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm very curious about it. So, would that be a thumbs up from you?
Yes. Before we go into it though.
Oh, yes.
Should we talk about the opening frame, I guess? The very opening of this?
Yes. Are you referring to the text or
yes and
or
no.
the camera work of the
Yeah, just the way that shot is framed and how it progresses and everything.
Yeah, because it's kind of a weird, kind of experimental kind of thing that we don't see really at all anywhere else in the movie.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, it kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. What did you think of it?
I just, like, the first time that I saw it, I was really impressed with it just because, like, for people that haven't seen it recently, it's just the inside of Jeff's apartment, and he's got these two giant windows, and he is laying on the bed, and he starts smoking, and it's kind of ingenious how Melville does this, how he, like, you don't even notice him there at first, you know? And even the second time that I watched this, I knew that he was there, and maybe I had just forgotten exactly where he is. But he, like, even the second time, I was kind of surprised when he finally moves and you see him. And it's just I just was really impressed with how kind of emblematic it is of the rest of the movie. Like, he's this guy who's just lying there and wait and just trying to stay in the shadows, basically.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't pick up on that. I didn't really connect with why, like, what that opening shot was, but that's interesting. I'll have to think about that next time I watch it. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Would it be on your great movies list?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll definitely watch this again.
Nice.
I don't know how soon, but yeah, I'll watch it again for sure.
Me too.
I think I was at Barnes and Noble recently, and I was just looking through their Criterion section, and they had this on Blu-ray, and I briefly considered buying it, but it was like $40 or something outrageous. So
yeah, maybe they'll do another sale at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. And I mean, you've got the Agnes Verde?
Yep.
Set to go through anyway, so, you know.
You can never have too much Criterion Blu-rays.
That's actually true.
Don't tell that to my wife.
As evidence from the top row of my collection. Yes. So, yeah, thumbs up for me. I would put it on my top 10, or not my top 10, but my great movies list, theoretically so. I do have something I want to talk about in spoilers for this, so I think we should go into spoilers. All right, well, we'll go into spoilers for Le Samurai, and we might do a potpourri after this, might not, we'll see. But check the show notes for the timestamps and everything if you don't want to be spoiled on Le Samurai. Okay, so Le Samurai, spoilers on. So, that ending.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I really like the way that the movie recontextualize or re-shows or revisits several things that happen throughout the movie. So like the license plate switch thing, yep, and how that has kind of a different context from like how I read it when he's just like, just so you know, this is the last time. That kind of felt like, to me, and maybe this could have been a misread of it, but to me that felt like it was showing that when we see the first iteration of that, the first version of that, it seems like just a cool hitman kind of thing, yeah, and like a well-oiled machine, like he has these things and everything,
yeah.
And then when we see him and the guy says like, hey, you know, no more of this shit, I'm not doing this anymore. The way that I read that was that it was maybe the movie trying to communicate to us that he does not have this base of operations, or he doesn't have this, he's almost just like a regular guy who happens to just kill people for money.
Uh-huh.
And that he doesn't have this well-oiled machine of hitman assets and everything.
Yeah.
But then I also was wondering if maybe that's to show that since he was arrested, he's now like, he
doesn't want to risk
he's
being out there. Yeah.
He's blackballed by the hitman, union.
Right.
So I don't know. What did you make of that?
Yeah. To be honest, I kind of spaced that line. But I do have thoughts on like the very end.
So, yeah, me too. Me too. I do have one more thing I'm going to bring up before we get to the very end.
Okay.
Just an observation that I love this. In the same way that the license plate thing is kind of recontextualized in that second scene later in the movie, the keys in the car.
Yeah.
Just love it. Love it. Like, in that opening scene, it just feels like, okay, this is just his technique. He's doing this nervous glance thing, but it's also like he's just operating. This is what he does.
Right.
And then when he's getting away and he's doing the same thing, it's like, now we know, like this is it. The pressure is on, and there's like little minute changes in his performance and his look and demeanor in that I was just like, this is amazing. This is really good.
This is smart. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was really, I mean, the giant ring of keys is, I mean, this film is very visually focused, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely one of the visuals that you think of when you think of this movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, before we get to the end, the procedure aspect of it and the police procedure and everything, the way that they had the map and the transponder things, I thought that was just really clever detective story work. And I thought that was really cool.
It's funny, you think of this genre of movie and you think it, like, obviously nowadays it's very technology focused, and you don't really think that, like, how can you pull off something like this back in a time when the technology wasn't as developed? And he still finds a way to pull it off. I mean, the bug that the police plant in his apartment is kind of comical, but
that was good.
Yeah. I also kind of thought that you would be taken by that scene because I figured you would probably be training your cat to alert you whenever bad guys have infiltrated your apartment.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
To tip you off without without making it too obvious.
Well, the funny thing about that is that the only way that she tips me off that there's anything amiss, like if if I put in a work order for maintenance to come in and do something, and they do that while I'm at work, because I'm like, I have a cat, she'll hide.
Yeah.
When I come home, she will still be hiding like under the bed.
Yeah.
And she'll be freaked out so that clues me in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys have that bond, just like Jeff and his bird.
Yes. Oh, yes. Something about regarding the technology. This is how, I don't know. This is something else, but this is how inundated with like the modern age I am, I think. But there are two scenes where, a police officer is communicating with their captain in the car with a handheld, like a phone.
Yeah.
Like a car phone. And like when those scenes happen, I didn't even bat an eye. I was just like, wait, like after a minute, I was like, huh, okay. Like my brain just connected that. Like it's not anything that's out of the ordinary or anything that's strange for the time. I don't know how common car phones were in 1967, really. But my brain interpreted it as like, oh yeah, he's returning a text.
Yeah.
So yeah.
France was ahead of the curve.
Yes. Oh, yes. So that ending. Let's talk about it. How did you feel about the final showdown or final scene with Jeff and the pianist?
Yeah. On a surface level, I think it works, and maybe when I watch it again, I'll feel better about it. But at least this time, I think it's a fitting end. I think it ends Jeff's like arc nicely and neatly. But I feel like they cut to when he's in the car, he's got the loaded gun, or maybe it was before he gets in the car, but at one point it shows deliberately the gun that is loaded. And then at the very end, the gun is not loaded at all. So they're implying he goes in there planning on dying, which implies that he is like fed up with this lifestyle and these people are going to get him sooner or later. So what's the point? So that all tracks and works fine on the surface level, but I just felt like it could have been built up a little bit better. Like his frustrations with the mob, or his desire to not necessarily live a different life, but I don't know, just anything really. It could have been built up a little bit better.
I definitely see where you're coming from with that, for sure. I think I was so wrapped up in the samurai angle of it, because I feel like that was, because the movie opens with this text from the Bushido, which is the book of the samurai, which also the text that's on the screen isn't from that. It's just something that Melville wrote. Right. But what I took it to mean, like that ending scene where he's gunned down and killed, when pointing the gun with no ammo, really interesting that we picked these two movies. Yeah. But what I took that to be was a kind of closing of the arc throughout the entire movie, and in that it was, and again, I'm hang on, let me check and see.
Harakiri.
Him performing harakiri, which is the ritual suicide by disembowelment practiced by the Japanese samurai, or formally decreed by a court in lieu of the death penalty. That's what I kind of felt like the movie was going toward, and I kind of felt like even if it didn't ramp up to that point, or if it didn't seed that point enough, if maybe this is something that I'm putting into the movie that isn't necessarily there, I do feel like that it tracks if you interpret it that way, because this is a man who has gone through facing two separate factions, his employers and the police.
Right.
And working against them and trying to get out of this hole that he's found himself in, or out of this corner. And to an extent, if he is someone who, if you look at the movie abstractly or like in its kind of all-encompassing view, if he is a hitman who adheres to the Bushido code and the Bushido and the way of the samurai and everything, then naturally him doing something, him in his line of work, if he applies the samurai principles to that line of work, him making such an error that costs his safety and everything and puts him at such a risk, then him sacrificing himself to die is him performing
Harakiri.
And dying as a result of just fucking up his line of work.
Okay.
And that's something that's what I took from it. Maybe that's me projecting, because I watched this immediately after watching Yojimbo, and I was all in that samurai mindset. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you think I'm wrong, or just completely? Do you think I'm right, or completely?
No, I think that makes sense. I think it would be interesting to a good podcaster would have done his research and tried to see what Melville had said about like any kind of ties between this and the samurai or the samurai code.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is fairly explicit. It's so there had to have. I mean, it's not really all that far fetched. So
yeah. Maybe there's something there.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll report back to you guys.
Yes, we will. Okay. Yeah. So I guess that's our review of La Samurai. Yeah. Should we go ahead and talk about our picks for next time?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, do you want to go first? Because I haven't picked mine yet.
Yeah, sure, I can.
Okay.
Okay. So, as previously mentioned, I bought the Agnes Varda box set from Criterion late last year, and I'm going through them this year, or at least that's the plan. She has surprisingly only one film on this list, and that is 1962's Cleo from 5 to 7. So we're gonna ride the wave, the French New Wave. Stay in France and do Cleo from 5 to 7.
Sweet. Okay.
Which is available to stream on HBO and Canopy.
Sweet.
I feel like all of our movies are either streaming on one of those two or both, or yeah.
Okay, nice. And do you want to read the plot summary of Cleo from 5 to 7?
Yes. A spoiled and beautiful young pop singer wanders across Paris while awaiting the results of a medical test that may show she has cancer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Man. I mean, okay. That sounds, I'm excited for that because I've never watched any of her movies, but I had this idea, like I had this pick that I just picked right now, but hearing that makes me think that I should push a Kurosawa movie.
Everything goes back to Kurosawa, doesn't it?
Does. And I just think, yeah, let's do it. Okay. My pick is, and I'm excited for this because I haven't watched this in many years, but it is 1952's Ikiru by Akira Kurosawa. The plot summary is Kanjei Watanabe is a middle-aged man who has worked in the same monotonous bureaucratic position for decades. Learning he has cancer, he starts to look for the meaning of his life. Yes. So Ikiru is available to stream on HBO Max and I would assume Canopy and Canopy and the Criterion Channel.
Awesome.
Yes. So I feel like we're going to have a pretty heavy episode for this, but I'm not gonna do Kurosawa every time. I could.
You very well could, yeah.
Maybe I should. But yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's Ikiru. And Cleo from 5 to 7. What year was Cleo from 5 to 7?
1962.
62. All right, cool. Well, will.
The answer to your question is yes, you can borrow the box set
nice.
to watch it if you want.
Maybe. I think since it's available to stream, I think I'll be all set.
It is a very good box set for anyone that is out there thinking about getting it. It's very cool.
Nice. Very nice. All right, well, that's our assignments. Do you want to do a potpourri section, or should we call it a night? Do you have anything for potpourri?
I'm sure I do.
Okay, I probably do. Let's do a lightning round potpourri, just one each. I want to mention, going into potpourri, potpourri is a section of the podcast where we talk about things we're looking forward to, things we've watched, things we're whatever. Everything we like as long as it smells good. Whatever we want as long as it smells good. And I will get us kicked off, and then you can round us out if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so just the other night, I rewatched Dazed and Confused. And I was super bummed because Dazed and Confused is not on Ebert's Great Movies list, because that was definitely going to be my pick. And it's weird because I don't think American Graffiti is either. And I wanted to pick like one of the like 119 movies, coming of age movies. But I rewatched Dazed and Confused. It's amazing. I love it. It has, the reason I rewatched it was because I just listened to the audiobook for All Right, the oral history of Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused by Melissa Mayers. And so Dazed and Confused is amazing. It's iconic. How do you feel about Dazed and Confused?
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Okay.
But I remember liking it.
Nice.
I mean,
okay.
It was, it's been a while. That's all I'll say.
Okay. I love it. It's weird because it falls under that 119 movie that I love so much. So, and I've made my top 25 favorite movies of all time list. And number 25 is Superbad, which is basically a kind of, it's in that milieu, but for the 2000s generation, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And in the next 25 that I have Can't Hardly Wait, which is kind of the 90s era of that same story. Weirdly enough, Dazed and Confused is not in my prospective top 50 or anything. Not that I put too much credence on that or anything, but I do love it. It's amazing. And this book by Melissa Mayers is a really interesting oral history of it that she talks to so many people that were involved in it from the production and the cast. And it's amazing because Richard Linklater made Dazed and Confused after it was a studio movie after he kind of came on the scene with Slackers, which I never saw.
Right.
And so he was given like a budget and studio backing and everything. And like the stories that they go into about the production and about what was going on behind the scenes it's nothing too like gratuitous or like scandalous or anything, but it's so entertaining. You can really tell how charmed and how like close knit they were, which is kind of, an expected kind of thing. But I will say there is one chapter that is all about the actor who played Pickford in the movie, who, and this isn't indicative of the entire book, but, that dude was a freaking monster. Like he was, I'll share like a couple of anecdotes from it and then leave you to read the book. But, he came on set saying repeatedly that he was going to be the next Brando. This was his first movie. And his agent was a huge dick talking about how he's going to be the next Brando as well. He would keep, anytime he was in, a scene, he would try to basically steal focus from whoever was the focal character in the scene. And the final kind of anecdote for that is that he, on the football field scene at the end of the movie, where Matthew McConaughey as Wooderson is there. He was not supposed to be there originally. It was originally going to be Pickford, but they basically fired him from the movie. And so they're like, well, Wooderson can be in there. That's fine.
Nice.
So yeah, but it's a really cool book, really good read. And, I recommend it. And I recommend checking out Dazed and Confused again, if you haven't already, or if you need to revisit it. It's a good one. I really like it.
Nice.
So Ben, any thoughts on that? And
yeah, real quick. It's funny that you mentioned not only being surprised that Dazed and Confused is not on the Ebert list, but just one night kind of rom-coms or one night movies.
Yeah.
Because I watched Before Sunrise recently.
I was so bummed that that's not on the list either.
I know, and I forget if we have talked about the Mandela effect in this list, but I could have sworn that this movie was on the list.
Me too.
Or at least one of them.
Like, listening to that book, I was ready to be like, hey, let me pitch something for the next Ebert episode. Instead of picking two, let's just do the Before trilogy, because I've never seen them.
Right.
But yeah, wow, yeah.
Yeah, Before Sunrise is amazing. Check it out, because it's on that one and the next one, Before Sunset, are on HBO Max, and they're leaving in the end of January.
Oh,
so
nice. Well,
check them out while you can.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So you recommend it?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think you'd like it.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on Dazed and Confused. It's a classic.
Yeah, me too.
And
I agree. I'm not a classic. I mean, I agree.
I need to watch it again.
Yeah, nice.
My pick, let's see. I could go one of two directions with this, and one of them I'm sure would be very obnoxious.
Okay.
So,
I didn't want to say, while you're picking between the two, we postponed recording to we moved it a day, and like when I looked on Letterboxd last night, because we were originally supposed to record last night, I saw that you logged that you saw Grown Ups.
Yep.
And I just I was going to comment on it and just be like, I'm so sorry that I bailed on recording tonight, and this was what your night ended up being.
Yeah, well, it was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah.
MidwestFilmJournal.com.
Right. Links in the show notes.
Yeah. All right, fuck it. I'm going to do it. Let's talk Tenet.
Oh, God. Okay. Okay. Now, what you've done here is you have thrown a temporal pincer move on me.
Yep.
And, yeah,
Matt's wearing red, I'm wearing blue.
Yes. Oh, so how did you feel about Tenet?
You know, in my review that I wrote for ObsessiveViewer.com, I was annoyed by it, I would say. And seeing it again, I was much less annoyed. And I don't think I can accurately explain why. I think I have just come to the realization that it's all just silly nonsense, and it's just fucking cool action scenes. And don't even try to think about what is happening or why it's happening.
Yeah, and I cannot get past that. I just can't. I've only seen it the one time while I was symptomatic for COVID and had a fever and everything.
The way that Christopher Nolan intended for people to see it.
Yes. And that was my kind of go-to thing. I posted this on Letterboxd, but like, it's amazing to me that I did not see Tenet in theaters specifically because I was afraid of getting COVID. Like, I did not want to catch COVID by seeing fucking Tenet in a theater. And I didn't see it in the drive-in because I didn't want to see it with compromised audio through car speakers and everything. And so naturally, I fucking watch it at home on my TV speakers while I'm suffering from COVID.
Double jokes on you. I mean, I will say, I saw it at the drive-in, and yes, the audio was terrible, but it wasn't because of the drive-in.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I'm going to have some very strong words, but I don't want to overstep because it's your potpourri section.
You know,
so yeah.
All of the things that I said in my review on obsessiveviewer.com are still accurate, and I still feel that way. I still feel like Tenet was kind of a missed opportunity, but almost like you cannot tell that story and make it make sense. There is no one or two changes that you could make that would make it make sense or make it less frustrating. It's really just best just to sit back, and it just looks amazing. The action scenes are amazing. This will blow your mind. I was listening
You're inverted
to
right now.
Yes. This segment of the podcast is going to be played backwards.
Right.
I heard this on the Blank Check podcast, and they said that Tenet has like 280 shots that were done with CGI, which sounds like a lot. But then they said Dunkirk has like 400 something. So this is one of the most practical films of Christopher Nolan's filmography.
Wow.
And it just even knowing that just blows my mind even more. Like, how did they get these shots? How did they do it? Even something simple like the fight scenes, which one of them is played forwards and backwards. It just blows my mind how they did it.
I visually it is very impressive. The everything from the scope of the action, like the action, the big set piece at the end of the movie is visually it's very unique and very remarkable. However, to your point about there's no use in trying to make sense of the plot or anything. There's no changes that can be made to make it make sense. Like my immediate I had such a like visceral reaction to this movie, like in a negative way, that my reaction was, then he shouldn't have made the fucking movie. Like he should not have made the movie. If you have your protagonist being introduced to the concept of inverted objects by a character who says, don't think about it too hard, that is a failure, an abject failure of screenwriting. And like, I couldn't. I am someone who, when I was a snobby early 20s teenager, maybe, I don't know, 2010, I don't know, whenever, how old was I in 2010? 96, 2006.
20 or 24?
Yeah, I was like 24. So math is not good. When I was like a douchey 24-year-old or 23-year-old, in 2010, when people were like, Inception is too confusing, I can't make sense of it or anything, I was just like, okay, it's not that hard. 80% of the dialogue is exposition. Like, it is explaining to the audience what it is. And this is Inception. Like, it makes sense. With Tenet, that's the same principle. Like, most of the dialogue is exposition, and it is hand-holding, and it is telling us what's going on. But the core concept of it, the kind of big flashy thing that they do, the whole concept of inverting time or whatever, I cannot grasp what that is. Like, it is not built into the movie. Like, you think, okay, we're gonna, you talking about dreams? And we gotta go deeper. Like, that stuff in Inception, that makes sense. Like, okay, they're in dreams.
Yeah.
Like, fine. But this is like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. And then at one point they're on a boat, and then she tries to kill someone, and then suddenly he's freezing.
Time travel movies are inherently, they will make your head explode. And then doing a time travel movie in this way, yeah, it will make your head explode forwards and backwards. And when it explodes backwards, it'll freeze.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. Because that makes fucking sense.
Yeah, I mean, just even try to think for a minute about the mechanics of how the inversion works, and your head will explode. So I cannot defend that part. I don't know. I think that the action scenes are awesome. I think Robert Pattinson is awesome.
He's really good in it.
I think John David Washington is awesome, despite not really being a character.
That I think is my most frustrating thing about it. Like, I can suspend my disbelief with a wacky ass premise that makes no goddamn sense. And just so I say this, I am an avid fan of the time travel movie.
Yeah.
And I say this with pride. I am bought hook, line, and sinker into just about every time travel premise I've ever seen. I don't understand Primer. That's just about the only one that I'm like, I can't find what, like, this is too much. Until Tenet. But my problem is that, like, I can forgive that. I can accept that. I can suspend my disbelief, but the only characters in this movie that are remotely interesting or given any kind of dimension is Elizabeth Debicki and Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. And
it's like this, I tweeted this and I was really proud of this, but I'm gonna look it up real quick because like, even that, like, okay, I've made no secret my qualms with Interstellar. Like, yeah. It's whatever. I haven't revisited it. I probably should, but it's not really that high on my to-do list. But my tweet was, okay. This is the tweet. It's kind of a lengthy one, so bear with me. For context, in Tenet, there's a scene where Kenneth Branagh is being very violent toward Elizabeth Debicki, and he threatens to murder her and says, "If I can't have you, no one can."
Yeah.
And so this is my tweet, and then I'll stop bashing this movie until the next episode. From Christopher Nolan, whose Interstellar script brought you Maybe Love is Science? LOL IDK. Comes Tenet with the dramatic brilliance of, if I can't have you, no one can. And then, it's been 2 weeks since I saw Tenet, and I'm honestly still amazed that Nolan had Kenneth Branagh, a classically trained actor who has starred in and directed the work of Shakespeare, both on stage and screen, play a villain who actually says the line, "If I can't have you, no one can." If I can't have you, no one can. God, it's not just a mediocre and cliched villain line. It's hacky writing from someone who's hoping a high-concept plot will distract the viewer from lackluster, or honestly almost lacking entirely, character development. It's insane to me. If I can't have you, no one can. So anyway, rebuttal.
Matt just dropped the mic and walked away.
I did.
No, I no further questions, Your Honor. Kenneth Branagh is doing something else in this movie, and
he takes it to 11, and no one even knows where the dial is in this fucking movie for that.
Yeah. It's insane. Out of all of the insane things in this movie, that is one of the more insane things. And we will be here all night.
I know.
So I did this to myself, but it was worth it. We had to talk Tenet at some point. So
for context, we're actually recording this before we record our year in review episode. And I know that I will say that one of the co-hosts, at least, has Tenet on their top 10.
Ooh.
And,
spoiler.
Yes. And...
Or not spoiler, teaser.
Right. I'll just say, I'm glad that I got this off my chest here, rather than in that episode, which I will probably rant about that, so...
I'm sure you have more to say.
Yeah.
Whoever he or she is, I back them up.
Nice. All right, shall we close out this episode of The Obsessive Viewer?
I feel like might have had one. I don't think I did.
Okay.
No.
Do you want to go into this weird, rotating thing and then come out backwards?
Yes.
Because that makes fucking sense. Also, just... I don't... the bullet didn't go in... go into it because you didn't fire it or something.
I know what I was...
Intuiting it. I don't get it. Anyway.
No, none of that makes sense the later you'll go on in the movie.
Yeah.
I will say, and none of this really has any bearing on anything, but I saw Rise of Skywalker in IMAX at the State Museum when it came out. And the opening scene of Tenet was the trailer that they played. The opening scene in the Opera House.
I will say that sequence is really well done.
Yes.
What I could hear of it. Because also, I don't understand why anyone would fucking blow out the soundtrack on the fucking movie.
Hey, that soundtrack rules.
The actual soundtrack, the musical score is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the actual sound mixing is
oh, yeah.
I don't know why the fuck Christopher Nolan hates his audience's hearing. I really don't.
People said that about, I don't know, Dark Knight Rises, and I can defend the sound design and sound mixing in that movie.
Yeah,
but
I had no problem with that one.
Not this movie.
Yeah.
No. You almost have to watch it with subtitles on.
Yeah. Ugh.
But yeah, the soundtrack rules. I have listened to it just while at work to just amping myself up while I'm filing papers and shit.
Nice.
Yeah. That's all.
I love Ludwig Göransson, who does the soundtrack for it. I have this weird point of pride over him in his career because he's blown up. He's huge now. But I was a fan. I was a fan of him before he was cool. No, I like his work on Tenet, and I really liked the Mandalorian score that he does.
Okay.
But my affection for his work goes back to season 1 of Community.
Oh.
He did the music for that, and there are there's some music drops throughout the first season and throughout the whole series, really, that just works for me. I just really it elevates the sitcom for me, and I love that show. So
nice.
Yeah, so he's good. Also, he gets a shout out in a Childish Gambino song.
How about that?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. Ben, I know you need to check the lottery numbers. And
yes, I'm a multimillionaire at this point.
Nice. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Also, IRS.gov because the fucking stimulus check. But anyway, yeah. So, any parting thoughts for the Trump administration?
Let it be done.
Yep. All right. Well, on to better things. So thank you guys so much for listening. Next time, I don't know what we're doing, but yeah, we might do something. We'll see.
Year in review.
So, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that'll come after. This will come after that because I'm releasing this after that. So,
okay.
By the way, this is going to come out next week. So yeah. Okay, well, anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for listening. Check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Very highly of it. And also, Ken Kwapis was the director of the pilot episode of The Office and several other episodes of The Office.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So he was on Office Ladies Pod like months ago promoting this book, and they spoke highly of it, and like listening to it, I was like, this is really good, insightful stuff about the craft of directing, and about just the kind of the skill of management in a way, like overseeing and supervising a large production. And something that I found really interesting and something that resonated with me was the way that he talks about like something as simple as, not simple, but as something as integral to his craft as setting up a shot or setting up like where to frame a shot and everything, or how to frame a certain shot from a script and everything, and how to give notes to communicate that. Like the way that he talked about it, I was just like, this is really insightful, and it actually gives me a lot to think about when, like, in terms of watching a movie with a critical eye, because he, like, has this just not easygoing way, but, like, this just fluid way of just breaking down, like, what a scene means and what needs to be communicated. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I am really, like, this is really insightful. I really liked it. So
nice. Yeah. And what's the book called again?
It's called But What I Really Want to Do Is Direct by Ken Kwapis.
Nice.
Highly recommend.
Okay.
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny. And follow our recurring co-hosts at I Am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at Burger_Lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at ObsessiveViewer.com/donate. Or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at ObsessiveViewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to ObsessiveViewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, The Dark Tower series, at TowerJunkiesPod.com and at TowerJunkiesPod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!